I mean, most of the times one scene real time, but if you want to jump around, I don't care. I'll
Okay.
bring us on Facebook, and then I'll tell you how many suggestions, and then you just pick a number, and then we just go. That's it.
Okay. Do you normally, I've watched a couple of these back when you first started doing them. Do people tend to play characters or it doesn't matter? It's just free reign, whatever.
Yeah, I think they do tend to play characters, but it's really like, I mean, shit, it's free reign. I did one once with a friend's dad who we just talked about like he was a teacher. It was in really an improv scene.
You
And it
just
was
shot the breeze.
yeah, we just kind of shot the breeze. And I was like, all right, that's fun. So really it's like, I don't know, however you want to play it based on the suggestion, that's kind of
Okay.
I like figuring out and going along with other people's styles. So however you want to do it.
Okay. Sounds good to me.
Pick a number 1 to 52.
Ooh, that's so many. Let's go with a realistic number for 10 minutes. 6.
Okay, cool. Although I do have to tell you, Lindsay, the biggest thrill people get are watching me count. So, I mean,
Okay.
they said that's my best work. They're
Is
like,
that the draw?
that's the draw is watching me count down suggestions. Most of the time I get it right, but sometimes when I get in the higher numbers, I lose track. But 6 will work. This comes from Bob Miret, and our suggestion is play ball. Play ball. Thanks, Bob.
Telling me
Yeah,
I never told you how to pitch a slider.
yeah, yeah.
You know how to pitch a knuckleball, but you don't know how to pitch a slider.
I mean, the knuckleball is the first thing I learned. And then my old man's like, I'm going to take you through the easiest to the hardest. And we started with the knuckleball. And I got that pretty good. And then we went from the knuckleball to a 2 seam and then a 4 seam. And then he thought that a corkscrew was easier than a slider, which is if so I learned the corkscrew, but then we got to the slider and he said, I'll be back. And then I never saw my dad again. So I was always like, I could learn how to do it and throw it, but I'm like, why? And now it's ironic that we're having this conversation here now on the mound.
It's just ironic because it's the only thing that Dempsey can't hit is a slider. And you know he's ambidextrous, so every way you turn, he's ready for you. You know, he can change his stance while it's mid-flight.
Nah, that's why I'm like, I wished, I'm like, man, of all the people to come up, I hope it's not Dempsey. And now Dempsey's up.
Well, they switched the lineup on us, which they can do.
I mean, it's legal. Legally, they can, right? At
He's
any
the DH. They can put him wherever they want.
Can I ask you
Hey,
something? Hey, can I ask you
go
something?
ahead. Go ahead.
Give me your honest opinion. Do you like the DH?
I think it's necessary because there's always someone who can really hit, but he's just a little bit too fond of fast food and the donuts. And you know what? I think we should be inclusive.
I
You
know,
know,
I
some
know.
it's an older guy, or we want to be friendly and say just because you got gout doesn't mean you don't play ball no more.
You got to have that opportunity. If you're not good enough is one thing, but not having the
Do we want to
opportunity.
kick out someone like David Ortiz because he can't sprint? No, we don't.
He was a first baseman though. To be a
Back in the day, no, first base, it's coming straight down the line.
right.
He could not play shortstop.
No, 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 no. I mean, they put
Center
him out
field,
there.
you're laughing.
Yeah. So like, I mean, Mo, like a DH, you're creating jobs. Let's like, right. You're creating jobs for people. I mean, but I feel like if I had a chance, I could hit. I could. I could go from.
Here we go again. You
I'm just
can throw
hear
him,
me
you
out,
can't hit him, and you
RJ.
need to rest your arm.
Hear me out, RJ. If you gave me a month and said you're gonna pitch, but you're gonna also hit, and then I trained, I bet I could be a decent 220. I bet I could hit 225, 230. I bet I could. And I had power back in the day. I had power. I was a pull hitter.
You hit 10 in a row,
Yeah.
anywhere off the automatic machine. Spring training, I'll think about it.
Really?
But now we're going to have to figure out how to get a knuckleball past Dempsey. Somehow, just float that sucker.
Okay.
Hypnotize him.
I mean, I'll do the wind up.
Disorient him. Dazzle him. Give him the old Tinkerbell razzle dazzle.
What other chance we got? That's it. If I can't hypnotize, I mean, he's on a hot streak right now.
He's
Hang
arrogant.
on. All right, hang on. I'm talking. We're talking here. We get a mound visit. We get a mound visit. All right.
Just dazzle him. Throw off his confidence. Throw off his mojo.
Did you ever think you'd be in this position? You ever
No.
think you'd be coaching at all?
No.
Do you think
I
that
thought
would?
I'd be dead by 47. I was planning on that.
I mean, you look really young for your age.
I smoked a lot, but then I quit. That was my mistake.
Your body looks. I mean, you got beat up a bunch.
All right. Okay.
You
I
do
see
your
where this is
body.
going. No, this is a conversation about you and your arm.
I do. All I'm saying is, you were a hell of a catcher. Now you're a hell of a manager. I couldn't be a catcher. That's the hardest position on the field. And a lot of catchers go on to be good managers because they still got this.
Because my knees are destroyed, kid.
I know.
I gotta
Hang
go.
on.
I gotta go. They're gonna penalize us. You gotta pitch.
They're gonna penalize us.
We've been out here for 14 minutes.
Well, we're not done yet. Timeout. We're calling a timeout. We still have a timeout. I know there's a mound visit, but it's still a timeout, Ron. We're calling our timeout, Ron. You know what? I would give anything for a rain delay right now. If the skies just open up, it was supposed to rain today. If the skies just open up, RJ, and it came down, oh God, I would love that.
Look, Kelly, it's not gonna rain. I'm not gonna lie to you. We're in the middle of a very clear sky.
Yeah, I mean, it's in one sense.
Unless you have some sort of in with heaven above, it's not gonna start to rain in the next 2 minutes.
Hold my hand. Hold my hand. RJ, hold my hand.
Are you making me pray right now? Because I'm a reformed Catholic.
You just say, I'll do the praying. You can join in if you want. You don't.
Your hands are clammy. Dry them on your pants right now. You're not going to pitch with hands like that.
I don't have anything. I'm just drying my hands.
There's nothing in his hands. You don't need any prestidigitation, Kelly. Give me your hand.
All right, whoever's up there, whoever's running this show, all I want, if you let it rain, I'll change my ways. I'll turn my life over to you instantly, and I'll do your bidding. So whoever is out there, please, I feel like I'm lost right now in a sea, and I can't do this. I don't know how to throw a slider, and that's the only thing that he can't hit. I'm so nervous that I know whatever I throw over there, he's gonna hit it, and we're 1 out away from the World Series. So please, if you could just open up the skies, I'll do your bidding. Whoever's out there, Lord, Allah, Vishnu, whoever's there, Ra, the sun god, please. Although it'd be ironic if it opened up and it was Ra, because then it'd be the sun god allowing the rain to come. But who am I to say? Who am I to say? RJ.
You've gone all loopy. Kelly. You want to open your eyes?
You want to say anything? Do you want to say anything?
No, I don't want to say anything. You really hit a real scatter shot with the deities there. Don't you think that's offensive?
I'm hedging my bets.
Not in a religious way, but offensive to the gods themselves.
I'm hedging my bets. I'm throwing it out to anyone.
You asked 5 women out on the date at the same time too?
Yeah. One's gonna. Hey.
Hot shot.
2 out of 5 say yes. I'm in the Hall of Fame. That's 400. I'm batting 400 if 2 out of 5 say yes. 2 out of 5.
Score.
If 2 out of 5 say yes, I'm good. See, you hit none of the home runs you don't swing for. You know who said that? You said that.
Was it the babe?
No, RJ, you said that.
I say a lot of things I don't mean, okay?
You said you hit none of the home runs you don't swing at, and it took me a
Yeah,
while to
I was
understand.
quoting Gretzky. I appropriated Gretzky into baseball. I'm sorry, I'm not original.
All right, all right, all right. I'm pitching. I'm pitching.
You got this, Kelly?
You feel that?
What was that?
RJ, I think it's. I
Oh,
think
you no.
it's. Yeah, it's raining.
The sky is clear. I don't see a damn cloud.
It rains. Oh my god. My
It's
god.
coming from the east.
It's. Uh. I I retire. You got to bring in a new pitcher. I got to dead.
You were serious?
I'm following the Lord. That's the sign I need. Hey, thanks.
Kelly! God damn it. All right.
Hey. Scene. I mean, that seemed like the end there. Now, you're huge in character improv and do solo stuff and character stuff.
Yeah,
What appeals to you about that? Because you're one of these improvisers that very easily gets into character, and I'm very envious of, because right away you're like you're not a caricature, you're like these full-blown deep characters. Like, what has that always been something like that's been appealing to you? Like, as a kid, did you do that?
absolutely. My mother, she was like, always telling me, like, I knew you were going to be an actress. You know what I mean? Like that. And I said, like, when did you know? And she's like, when you used to imitate your Italian grandmother that didn't speak English. I would walk around the house going, ah, mamma mia, oh dear. At like 18 months old.
No.
I was somewhat verbal, and that was my first impression. And
Wow.
then by the time I was in kindergarten, I was imitating everyone I ever met. I was doing Jerry Lewis, and like they were like, "You can't do that in Sunday school, Lindsay." And I didn't. I was like, "Whatever, I'll do what I want."
Ladies.
Yeah, and I didn't even understand that he was like world famous. I was just like that guy from the movie where he's 17, but he's not like that guy.
Wow. Wow. So you are a student of human nature and human
Yeah,
behavior.
I always mimicked people. Like I would tell stories to people and I would become the people in the story, especially if they were entertaining. I'd be like, you can't get on this bus because you know why? Because it's the wrong bus. And they'd be like, why are you doing that voice? Are you weird? And then I took theater class and they were like, okay, we can make this work.
You see, you took theater class and you're like, oh, this is where I should be. Like, this is the people
Totally.
here.
But it took a while to figure that out because when I took like theater classes first. I was like 6, 7 years old, and they made us do mime the first 7 months. So we didn't talk. We were like learning commedia dell'arte, and it was all gesture and mime. And it was like the most frustrating thing in the world to not speak as a 6 year
What?
old.
Wait. Are you joking? As a
I'm
6 and
not joking.
7-year-old,
It was
you're doing.
called the Spark Performance Center, the School for Performing Arts in the Richmond community.
No.
They're still going, as far as I know, and they taught very traditional theater classes, and that's the way they got around some kids being ahead and behind verbally, was
Wow.
not letting us talk until, like, I don't know, the very end of class. They would let us talk a little bit.
Well, I
um
mean, in a way, that kind of harkens back to improv days of like doing gibberish, right? Where you're like,
yes, then we
let's
did the grumolo and the gibberish and things like that. It was like, and I because of the commedia training, I got really into doing those, and then I got to like professional comedy, and they're like, we don't do that here. And I'm like, oh, I'm so sorry. I'm like, they're like, oh, yeah, it really sounds like Italian. I'm like, yeah, but you can't do that. That's offensive. I'm like, well, I have two Italian grandparents. It's not enough. Whatever. But and the thing is, it's like, to me, it's not all like playing a very complicated accent or complicated character. With that one, I chose someone kind of close to home, like someone very recognizable, as opposed
yeah.
to like a very deep character with a complicated way of speaking. Um, but I just imitate people I know and sort of amalgamate different people that I've met, or you're kind of imitating someone you met in passing once, or once you have enough exemplars in a certain accent, you can do that accent. Like there are like 55 people from Glasgow. Okay, you and you know what I mean? And
Yeah.
people are like, where did you get that? I'm like, that was someone I sat next to on a plane. in college. You know what I mean?
Well, that's
Yeah.
interesting because I think that like the character improvisers and actors, I feel like that's the skill is you're absorbing people in a curious way. You're not like, I'm going to make fun of them.
No,
Unless you're
no.
doing satire, which is a whole nother, that's a skill you got to learn how to do and what you're saying, but you're really absorbing these people you find interesting. You're like, oh, I want to try that out on a stage. What would that person be like in this other situation?
Absolutely. And then you think, like, when you're tagging into a scene, you're like, I'm going to be this person. And sometimes you can see people taken aback. And I'm like, that's exactly how I felt when I met her. She's a little too much. And she was on my elevator.
Oh my God.
you know,
First off, the best place to put those characters in an enclosed space that you can't get out of. So in an elevator, it's because you're just raising the tension right there.
Yeah, absolutely. And you're not like planning ahead in any way. And sometimes people they initiate the scene and then you have to come up with something and you're like, be someone. They're like, well, that was perfect for that. It was like, I don't know. It was all in your first line. Like I didn't have that character in my back pocket. Sometimes people are like, oh, that must be one of your go-to characters. I'm like, no, they gave me the suggestion PTA mom, and I know this woman. You know what I mean?
Wow. Well, I really think that like for me and my I've got no say in the matter, but for me with character work, I think that's such a great skill and a way to approach it is I don't have anything till I get on stage, then that suggestion, that's what flavors my choices. That's the whole thing why you're getting suggestions is like what's the audience going to give you? Now what can we come up with? That at least that's how I look at it.
Yeah, that's why even though I obviously I have like my brain fires initiations constantly, I try to let the other person talk first, not only because they might be less experienced than me, because they might not have that level of confidence. So if I let them talk first, I'd rather receive the onslaught than throw it at them and have them go, what? You know what I mean? If it's really younger, less experienced players. And to people that say I can't do characters, I just hand them sunglasses and hats and say, what is this? Who are you now? And they're like, well, I don't have props on improv. I'm like, yeah, but this is cross training. You know,
Yes.
you can think of all the accessories in your house. Like, do kids do and play dress up. And that's how I came up with all those characters as a kid was throwing on my mother's evening gown from the 60s or something, you know what I mean? I'm walking around the house like, I used to dress up my cousin as Liza Minnelli. He has forgiven me, but um, I used to be Dick Cavett and he would be Liza Minnelli.
Oh my God, of course, I just the best. It's like you be Liza, I'll be the other end of the spectrum. I'll be Dick Cavett.
He had the jet dark short hair, so he had to be Liza, and he had the big brown eyes, so he had to be. And I was like, who would be opposite her? So I tried Judy, and then I was like, no, that doesn't work. I'll be Dick Cavett.
Oh my God. And making that's such really smart choices. I'm going to do this different energy to allow you to shine. And Dick, for those who don't know, Dick Cavett was like a kind of a low key talk show host and very good at what he did, but he was not like competing. Like Conan O'Brien sometimes is like competing for it. Dick Cavett was not, he was very low key and he let that guest shine. So making that choice, how do you tell people that that's where it's at in
Yeah.
improv is like let the other person shine.
He was like the light comedy version of David Frost. Like
Right.
he got to the truth of the matter, but he was like, "Oh, tell me about that. What do you think, David Bowie?" And David Bowie was
Right.
like, But yeah, and sometimes people feel that them putting pressure on them by naming them or bringing them onto the scene. But I'm like, I'm trying to tell you, I'm literally cradling you. Like,
Yeah.
do whatever you want and rebel against that if you want to. Like any gift, you can reject it, but for me, a strong initiation is a gift, whether if it's hostile or whatever. At least I know who you are and who you think I am.
Yeah, and it's like, here, you do what you will with this. You want to embrace it, you whatever it is. I can't wait to see what you do with it. If you reject it, that's cool too. But like, I'm just putting that out there. I got nothing more past that.
And that's a sad thing. And people sometimes ask me like, "How did you learn this? How did you learn that?" And it's like, unfortunately, for many years, I played in troops where my ideas were soundly rejected on stage in front of people, but there were kids in the audience, so no one could swear about it, you know. And so people like I ended up doing scenes where I was like, basically, a Shakespearean character in the middle of a sitcom because no one yes-anded what I said, and I had to stick to it. So we were like, well, do I get people to negate me? I'm like, no, play with only people that yes and you. But if you have to deal with people that negate you, learn from it.
That's perfect, right? Because growing, like taking your first classes, you don't always, sometimes you get lucky, but you don't always have that choice because everyone's paying the same amount. Everyone's paying a check. So you have to play with people, whether they yes and you or not, even though we're supposed to. And then once you get to a point where you're out of that situation, go to those people who it's like raise you up, say yes to you, like fine. And if you're in a group that right now, if you're in a group and you're not in that situation, leave the group. Don't be upset about it. Don't like just walk away. And it took me a long time to realize I could do
Just
that.
like a
Just like
job is
a job.
not worth, like a paycheck is not worth losing your mind.
Right.
and and I got lucky because I went to high school drama class after my like academy training or whatever, and I still took that. And my teacher was like, "We're going to learn about Chekhov, we're going to learn about Shakespeare, we're going to learn all this curriculum, but we're also going to learn from this book called Truth and Comedy." And so she taught us from
No.
that ninth through 11th grade. That's all we did. And so I thought, like, this is what improv is. Everyone yes handed, she controlled it. Then I started taking classes with 25-year-olds, and they were like, rah, 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 rah. And I was like, why were the 16-year-olds so much more mature than you guys? Why were 16-year-old boys in the age of the internet, like, and all
Yeah.
those things, like, why were they so much more responsible socially and more community minded, and supporting people, even when somebody got, oh my god, a short form suggestion of OJ Simpson in the late 90s, they still did it more tastefully than I would say any show has done something like
So
that.
don't you think it speaks to the leadership and the climate that you're in, where like the person leading it sets the tone, and then the people,
100% Linda Stow, the professional drama teacher, best teacher I ever had.
and do you feel that she's in her styles rubbed off on your style and the kind of situation you want to put out there?
For sure, to make everyone feel safe and comfortable. And sometimes people are like, well, you're just doing that because it's trendy. I was like, no, I'm doing that. I've been doing that since
Trendy,
1994, son.
trendy, trendy.
Yeah, it's weird how people need these labels like, oh, you're just a social justice warrior. I was like, if the alternate is monster, which one
Yeah.
would you rather be?
And why is that said in a bad way? Why is that a bad thing? You know what I mean? Why is it a
People
negative?
need, that's why people cling to binaries and polar opposites. Like, if you're that, then I'm this. And if you're this, then I'm that. And I'm always going to do this. And it's like, well, we could both be on the same side. This isn't tennis, you know?
Right? But we know that there are people who are aggressive who want, and we talked about this before, they want to win. They want to win the conversation. They want to win I'm in the right theater for improv. I'm doing the right way. Like they want to have that victory in their life. And it gets very tiring after a
But
while.
they get so mad when you lose right away and you lose hard.
It's the best.
They're like, I don't know what to do. You're not rebelling anymore. And they're like, get over here. I'm going to execute you. And I'm like, 'tis a far, far better thing than I've ever done before. And they're like, no, no, no. I wasn't going to drop the guillotine. What are you doing? And I'm like, I commit myself to France, king and country.
Do you think is that something you've had? Because that skill is you've seen enough to be like, that's not lacking, or that's not as prevalent as it should be. Is that something you've always had, or did it get you've done enough scenes and shows to be like, I just don't care anymore, and it's a fun choice for you to do?
To be honest, I had a conversation only today with a friend who is a professional musician, like a touring musician, and he's never acted. He just plays in the orchestra, so he knows everything about theater but doesn't do it. And we were talking about like street violence and street harassment and how hard it is to negotiate. And he was talking about being a woman or being a gay man out in the world, and I was like, all of these are just survival skills. And then people are like, well, it's not fair that it helps you with your improv. And I was like, it's also saved my life 20 times if you want to hear about it. You know what I mean? But they don't. That's why they come to the stand-up show. But it's true. It's just, and to put it in kinder terms, it's playground survival skills. Like, oh, guys, you guys won't play with me? Look at this great game I'm playing over here by myself. Oh, and then I've had people on stage in improv, adults, steal my fake prop and destroy it. And I'm like, oh, look, I have another car. Oh, look, I have another car. I'm never going to run out of cars.
Right?
So I've had, and they try and break things that don't exist. I'm like, I guess I made you mad with my invisible prop. That shows how valuable it is. Because if it didn't have any power, you wouldn't be trying to destroy it. So the
That,
audience is my number one priority. I want the audience to feel safe. I want the audience to enjoy the show. Second of all is the show itself, the people that are in it, and the show as a whole, not my part, but everyone. And then after that, like 4 or 5 things later, is like my ego. Did I challenge myself? Did I have fun? Because if the audience doesn't have fun, it's not just about Yelp reviews. I couldn't go on doing it if I didn't think the audience wasn't having a great time.
I mean, that's the whole reason we improvise is like it's an agreement with the audience. Come out, we'll take care of you. Give us something and let's see what we do with it together. And that philosophy of I mean, it's playing the show is a skill that you aren't taught. I don't think you're taught how do you play, how do you fit in the show, not just the
That's
scene.
such a huge thing, and I think it's so hard to coach. You really have to coach after a show notes. And when most people give show notes like, I didn't like this, I didn't like this, I didn't like this, I'm like, that helps no one. How about positive feedback? And I'm not talking about guarding their ego. I'm just saying, like, what you did, like, you can't teach someone how to ride a bike by telling them what not to do. Like, don't stand on one side. You can't do it. It's not possible.
Right.
So you have
Right.
to learn the stage sense. You need theater training. You just do. Even if it's in an improv class, you need it. And then that show sense, you have to watch a couple thousand shows,
Yes.
full length shows, and you have to decide what your aesthetics are, what your values are. And you're not going to do that by sitting in the audience going, I could do better than that. I could do better than that. I'm better
Totally.
than her. I'm better than him. you
I
know?
remember the best show training I ever got. I was in a short form group in Chicago, and they said when we got hired, they're like, "You're going to do lights for 3 shows." And then I understood watching those 3 shows for when to pull the lights between scenes. What it taught me so much of how that flow of that specific show worked because it did have a rhythm to it. And I was like, oh, and that really opened my eyes up to like, how do you come on stage? When do you bring music in? How do the lights come down? At what point? When's the scene over? When can you hit it to really make that look good?
The house and the tech are a huge part of the show, and I think unfortunately because people weren't trained in traditional theater, they weren't told to venerate their tech people. I
Oh,
always give them the spiel of like, you are the eighth member of this group, you are the ninth member of this group, like, we trust you. I
yeah.
know you're 21 and you're scared that you're not professional enough to work with us, but I trust you to pull lights when you see the moment. And if you cut us off early, it's not too early because you're the only one that's looking at this from the house. And
Yes.
sometimes they'll be like, I don't know. And then at the end, they'll be like, that's the best show I ever teched. And I'm like, yeah, because you let it out of your head that you were going to fail, that you were going to get yelled at by some guy with a beard and, and an attitude, that I did this back in 1998. And you're like, cool, this person was born in 1998. How
Yeah.
about you just take that into consideration?
And you set them up to succeed. You
Yes,
say
because
like,
they'll never do a good job if they don't have confidence. That's why it's so important not to note someone to death and get them in their head. And I don't mean just people with anxiety disorders. I mean anyone. I've had
anyone.
people try and cut me down to size like right before a show, and I'm like, I know what the mind games are here. And then they see me resist the mind games and like, you're pushing back against my note. I'm like, I'm taking all the notes that are to make me better. And I'm also taking all the notes for everyone else that are to make them better. I'm taking everyone's notes. So don't tell me I'm not taking enough notes because I'm taking 17 notes.
Well, shit, Lindsay, I mean, this is what you're talking about right now is a master class to tell, no, for real, to tell like,
How
not,
to steal someone else's feedback for your own success.
no, I mean, isn't that what we do as teachers though? We go, that
Yes.
works. That thing works. I'm going to like my notes. I tell people this all the time. What you're hearing from me are things other people have told me that I think that's phrased in a way that can work. And that's the note I'm giving you. I'm not saying anything original to you right now. And I'm trying, like, most of my notes come down to like, say yes, make positive choices, make them look good, and focus on the group. Like, those are most of my notes. But like having that of like, because you've got that background in theater as well, you understand how to work on a stage. I mean, there's so many people that get in improv that don't have any of that training, don't know how to give notes. And then they become teachers and they become coaches. And you're like, they might be a good performer, but like Michael Jordan was a good basketball player, terrible coach, terrible executive. He can't do any of that stuff. He can't explain to people. He doesn't understand they can't do what he can do. So
Because
he,
he's the one who they were funneling the ball to he
yes,
didn't see the whole game. All he was seeing is the hole. Like, that's all he was
right.
seeing. Drive towards the paint, get in the hole. Like, and it's true. Like, not everyone that can do. I was thinking about that when I was playing the coach in that scene. I was like, what kind of player was I? And you were like, I was a catcher. And I was like, damn it, I'm bitter because I was crippled at 38 or
Yes,
whatever.
yes.
And those kind of things. And it's like, giving notes is so hard. Like, I think people mock teachers that are too nurturing and too kind. And it's like, oh, that's no. She made people good at improv and you made people quit improv. So
Yes.
Yes, but the thing is, like, people aren't willing to commit to understanding that 95% of it is collaboration and listening. But
Yeah.
most people fall at that second hurdle for sure, and they don't remember anything the scene partner said because they were just thinking of what to say next. And that's why in notes they're like, "That didn't happen," and you're like, "Yeah, it did."
I'm a big fan of go back and watch your show. Like once you watch it, it's like you might not believe me, but
Maybe
you
that's the
watch it.
benefit of Zoomprov, that it's all
Oh,
recorded now.
it's huge. And I remember I coached a group a few years ago, and I was taking over for someone who had to move, and they're like, oh, we watch our shows. We do rehearsals and we watch our show before the rehearsal, like during rehearsal. And I was like, what? And then I watched it with them, and it was so valuable because you're like, see, you're like, I don't even have to give the note. You can see what happens on stage, and we hate as actors and improvisers for
Yeah.
sure. We hate it, but that's how you learn. You go, oh, I thought it in my mind I was very loud. I'm watching this, I'm not loud. I thought, right, I thought I'm looking to the audience. Oh my God, where's my head? Like it shows so much more because you were here looking out, not from the audience perspective. And it gives you an idea of what the audience sees too. So
As long as you can prevent the group and the director both from recriminations and finger pointing, I think watching a show could be
oh,
constructive. And also, one thing, the worst directors I ever had gave notes for longer than the show took place. Like, they would
no.
be like, we'd have a 3-hour rehearsal the following Tuesday, and the note process would be like 45 minutes. And it was like the best director I ever had sent it in a message because he was a theater director, and he's like, look at this while you're at work on the boss's time. I am not going over these with you. But an
Perfect.
hour and 10 minutes of notes for an hour long show is like saying, I don't know what to tell you guys. I'm just going to talk. I'm
I
going to analyze every scene. I'm going to second guess every choice. I'm going to
totally,
criticize everything you ever did
every word you
and
say,
ruin the
it's
truth.
like I remember getting those same kind of the directors, and I'm like, dude, and they would give it after the show, and I'm like, we have friends here. You're
Yes.
giving us the show's ended. It was a 25-minute show. You're giving us 45 minutes of notes. Our friends are sitting around the bar going, "What's up, dude?" So like,
Too
don't
much.
give too much. Just give like
If you
overall.
can't fit it into 10 minutes, it's not worth saying.
No, and if you,
And if you can't put it into the exercise of the next rehearsal, then you don't know what you're doing as a director. You should
yeah,
be able to give them a note without telling them you're giving them the note, like Mr. Miyagi and the. I mean, we all want to be Mr. Miyagi as teachers, but like you're like having him paint the wall, and the next thing he's defending himself, and it's like I had no idea it was training all day. I thought you were ruining my life.
and that's our goal as coaches: ruin your life.
No, I mean
No,
you're building certain
of
muscle reflexes, and so
course.
sometimes if I have someone that's lacking confidence, I'll give them something to do, and then they'll be like, "Why did you give me that?" And I'm like, "Well, wait till the next show," and they'll be like, "Oh my god, I get it now," and I'm like, "Yep, because you never initiate, so I told you to play high status in every scene. It
See,
automatically makes you talk more."
so see that to me is like that's a brilliant way to coach, and how it should be is like don't have them trying to do what they think you want them to do.
No,
Take them and say, I know you can be confident, it's inside of you. Here's a tool to let you do that. Now go out and do it. And don't even like just have the trust in me that this is something that's going to make you better.
yeah, and there's a million things you could say, but don't let them don't let them fill your head with 10,000 things to think about. Focus on one thing and do it well in that moment, because you're not a carpenter.
Yeah.
But in this moment, you know everything a carpenter knows. So
Yes.
just carpent.
Well,
Just cut the wood and stack it. Eventually someone will say, "What are you building?" But otherwise, just do your scene and not be like, I don't know where this is. I see the clockwork gears going in their head, like, where is this going? What's happening? Who am I? You all know what this is, but I don't know. Forget about it.
I love that.
I've done shows where I'm not even speaking the language. I'm just miming and understanding 10%. And they were like, how did you do that? Weren't you nervous? I'm like, I knew if they needed me, they'd talk to me.
Yeah.
So I'm just
And
in the background, like, I don't know, building a wall or something. And you're just kind of, I would say that's definitely something to do. And come in and dress the scene and just sit there and do needlepoint or whatever. Like in all the Shakespeare productions, when you were training as an actor, you'd be like standing with a spear, or you'd be a lady in waiting with a baby, or you'd be needlepointing. It was like 3 years before you got a speaking role. Like, do that if you don't know what to do
oh
in a
my
scene.
God. How great would that be? Where it's like the first 2 years of improv, you're just gonna dress the scene. I
I
would
think, yeah,
I,
I
I
really like a big cast for that reason. I'm like, you know what? Three people should talk, but you should be in this scene.
I'll be honest, right now, before when we were on stage, I did love those moments of like, hey, I'm just cleaning glasses at the bar. I don't even want to be involved. You have the conversation. I'm going to really clean different types of glasses. I'm going to look at what I've got in the well here. What drinks do I need? I might go grab something, but playing that kind of extra in a scene, I got a lot of enjoyment from.
And then you're there if you can say, "Hey Charlie, settle a bet for us. Which drops faster, a hammer or a feather?" And and then you're like, and then the scene blanks out. I'd rather do one little tiny thing and be useful than do a whole scene and be chaff.
Totally. Where, if people want to get a hold of you, they want to connect, they want to reach out to you to like teach, coach, play, whatever it is, what's the best way?
They can message me on Facebook or access me through Stand and Deliver Performing Arts, which is my like Facebook group. Also, I'm involved with Mad Improv. That's the only physical theater that I'm involved with right now. We're on hiatus until the pandemic settles down, but here in Madrid, we're an English-speaking improv group. So yeah, message me. I'm not locked down on Facebook. You can message me even if we're not friends, but if we have mutuals, you can go that way too. But you should be able to find me through my Facebook profile or Stand and Deliver Performing Arts.
It's always a pleasure running into you, talking to you both on and off stage, and such a thrill playing with you. I just dig your style so much. Thanks for taking time out.
Jay. It's good to see you in such high spirits.
I know. Well, I can't wait to play with you again, whether it's like virtual or in person. It was great. Thank you, Lindsay.
Thanks, Jay.
All right.
Take care.
Bye.